So we were at email writing, and let's talk about the content of an email. As I shared earlier with you, the title of the email, which is the subject line, should be worded properly. And it should be changed when one has to communicate with the same person on a different matter, and a different email string or thread should be initiated. The salutation in an email: Dear is accepted more when it is outside the government departments and the government circles in India. And outside India, it is always dear. In my case, when I shared with you, hi or hello was also the preferred form of salutation. And it is always better to have their first names to be more confident and comfortable and striking up a camaraderie in communication. However, that is not the norm in the government sector or in an organization where we are interacting or our organization of work. Then we should avoid it. We should stick to the norms that convey the information and the meaning that would not hamper communication. Next comes greetings, greetings of the day. Now, this kind of a phrase is usually written down in marketing emails, wherein one has sent an email to multiple recipients through an application like the Mailchimp, and which is unsolicited. So it should be avoided in a professional, in-person, directed, and specific emails. And next comes the first paragraph of the email. The first paragraph of the email should clearly state why the email has been written. The completeness aspect of the email should answer the question why. And it should not be multiple reasons or multiple purposes for which one email has been written to the one specific person. It should always be very one specific reason. So any writer, any sender of the email will not have lots of stuff or lots of material or lots of information to be shared or to be written in the first paragraph. I am writing this email to place an order of books required in our college or university's library. The list of the books and the quantities thereof are mentioned in the following paragraph. That's it. That's the first paragraph of the email. The aspect of the second paragraph, which should outline what action, what steps, or what processes are required, or what steps in the process are required by the recipient to fulfill the purpose of the email. One can also put bullet points, not a numbered list, but a bullet points as to what all is required, like the bulleted list of the items that are required. One can also, so in case of an email by a librarian, one can assume that this will be natural to have bullet points. But let's come to the example of a cover email, wherein a student or a candidate introduces himself or herself in the first aspect, in the first paragraph, saying that I came to know through reliable internal sources, wishing to remain anonymous, that a vacancy is due to arrive in such and such department at such and such role in your organization in the coming weeks. It is for this reason that I'm writing to you to present my CV to you and to request you to grant me an opportunity to present myself for a personal interview at the earliest. This is the first paragraph. The second paragraph. The second paragraph can say that once you read through or peruse my CV, you will find that the skills, the competency, and the experience required for fulfilling the KRAs of the post are present in an enhanced or an augmented manner in my profile and skill set. Firstly, I have completed such and such projects that show my competency, that show my proficiency in handling such and such softwares. Secondly, I have done this or I have worked in this department till now. That allows me to have advanced knowledge of data analytics using complex algorithms to input data and to extract information in comparison charts for clients and customers. Furthermore, now what is happening here in this paragraph when I'm using or writing, constructing sentences using firstly, secondly, furthermore, additionally, I am making a bulleted list, but it is not bullet points as in the bullet points that appear on my slide here. It is still a running paragraph, but with clear, distinct points that support the purpose in the first aspect of the cover email. So that would be the second paragraph of the email. To make the action required, to make the decision for action easier for the recipient, it is advised that one should remain to the point, avoiding flowery language, especially in the second paragraph. There should be no exchange of pleasantries. There should be no unwanted buffering up and buttering up your esteemed organization or your valued consideration kind of expressions should not find any space in the second paragraph. The third paragraph of any email very clearly shows how the follow up to this email will be done by the sender. So, taking or continuing with the example of the cover email for a cold call for an interview, in the third paragraph, the sender, the candidate can write, I look forward to hearing favorably from you and will follow up with a telephone call to you after 3 working days of having dispatched this email. I I sincerely hope that I will be allotted or assigned time to present myself for a personal interview with your good selves. So, now what has happened? In the third paragraph, the sender has clearly etched out how am I going to reach again. So, it does not come as a surprise to you. You don't feel irritated with me trying to connect with you further. And with my having stated that if you do not want me to connect with you further, then as a reply to this email, you can say that it's okay, ABC. We will get back to you once we have the opening clearly, distinctly presented before us in our organization. Be assured that we will be the first ones to reach out to you. Please do not endeavor or do not attempt to call before that. So that means when one receives such a reply as an answer to a cold call, the candidate is very much gladdened and encouraged that my email landed in the right inbox. And then there was certain confirmation, perhaps more or less confirmation of that opening happening in the time, and that they would remember me, and they've told me not to get back to them after 3 days. That's okay, so I'll wait for a week or so, reached out again to my reliable internal source and find out if it's the right time, if I do not receive a reply for them, for me to give them a call or an email again. Perhaps they are uncomfortable with the call, so it will be a good idea if I do not receive any response for, let's say, a week or 10 days, then I will perhaps drop them another email as a reply to this, that I was hoping to hear from you. Has there been any clarity about the proposed or the supposed opportunity in the offing? Now, that is how the email or the communication can continue if one is using the third paragraph very dexterously and in a very expert manner. This is the play of communication, and that too, cold calls also receive or extract responses. Otherwise, let's continue with the example of the librarian. In that case, the third paragraph could be, upon receipt of the package with the required titles and quantities of the books, I shall send you a confirmation email and um, raise an invoice on your part for purchase, or you can raise an invoice to which we will transfer the funds. Allow the transfer 5 working days to effectuate, and I will look forward to a confirmation from your end of having received the money and emailing me a receipt. In case of any discrepancy or confusion, do not hesitate to call me on the number given below in the signature box of this email. That could be the third part, wherein once the first aspect of the email is fulfilled, why am I writing? What I required? When this is taken care of, what will be the next step in the process. So one doesn't need to address or take note of or be very attentive and particular about the third paragraph of the email, but that moving forward or keeping the chain of communication alive and active, that step has also been etched out by the sender. And the control towards the response, and the hot, warm, and coldness, degree of hot, warm, and cold of the communication and the action associated with the communication is ensured by the sender by using these kind of paragraphs. The last phrase, when this all has been communicated, is either to say thank you or look forward to meet with you or with best regards. One says thank you when one has sought some information, sought some action from the recipient. One does not write thanking you because continuous tense ing, that implies that the work is repeating again and again, the action or the activity is repeating again and again. Why would I want to continue thanking someone that is being unwantedly or that is being infusing it with profuse flattery and even it is counterproductive and defeats the purpose of writing a thank you. A plain simple thank you is good enough. And since thank you is not a complete sentence, I thank you for your support in the matter is a complete sentence, after which we can put a full stop. After thank you, we can just leave it like that or perhaps put an exclamation mark. But marks of punctuation which express emotions like question mark and exclamation usually heighten the emotion. Otherwise, without the punctuation marks that convey our emotions, like the exclamation mark and question mark specifically, one considers it. One assumes that the sense of question, the sense of gratitude, the sense of wonderment is inherent in the words or the phrases that are written in this very formal piece of communication, that is an email. Since we are keeping the soft copy lighter and we are following the modern block format so that the email can be lifted out exactly like this, copied and pasted on the letterhead and then taken a printout. That is why we've avoided a comma at the beginning wherein we were addressing the email as respected ma'am or respected sir or dear ABC, and we've not put a comma. Same way we will not put a comma after this phrase also, whether it's the phrase of looking forward to meet with you or looking forward to meet you, or best regards. Since it is a phrase, so thank will begin with capital T and Y will begin with a small y. It is not the title of a book. It is not the title of the email. It is not the title of an essay. So all the words in the phrase will not begin with capitalized letters. That is something we need to be careful about. And then we finally sign off. We can say regards, best regards, or look forward. And if we've written with best regards, we do not need to have any kind of salutary address or salutary phrase written again. We can just simply write our name. In my case, only my first name appears in my emails because I would request and prefer everybody to call me by my first name, and my surname does not necessarily being included in the email or the communication has any kind of bearing on the impact and influence of the email or communication with me. But some people can choose their first name and the last name. If there are any professional degrees, like the doctorate degree, or like being an advocate, or being an engineer, an engineer or an advocate do not require a separate mention like engineer Suditi Jindal. No, it's not required. In fact, doctor, PhD holder in any subject area will also not find mention as Dr. Suditi Jindal. Even if I was from the medical profession and with the doctorate in any of the or specializations in any of the human physiology fields, I will still not write Dr. Suditi Jindal. I can write below it, within brackets, doctorate in such and such area. So that area could be philosophy, economics, any scientific area, or even related to the human sciences, human body. So that in itself would convey whether I'm a doctorate, academic doctorate, or a medical practicing doctor, right? And then I can give my organization's name and the address, my email address, my phone number, my LinkedIn profile. It depends upon me what all I want to include in my formal email's signature. It is a good idea always to have our LinkedIn, if nothing else, our LinkedIn profile link to be part of our email. We need to have our first name, if required, our last name also. Any professional degrees that could form a part of our title, like doctor or engineer usually does not make any sense, and advocate also, or a chartered accountant also. These are professional degrees. Of course, they have a lot of clout and significance in our professional growth and career, and they are acquired after a lot of effort and hard work, but that doesn't mean that they need to find a mention in the signature of our email. So we can put the name of our organization. We can even put the title or the designation at which we are working within the organization, then the name of the organization, then our LinkedIn profile and our phone number. We may or may not put our phone number, but I'll request you to definitely put your LinkedIn profile link there. And if you put the name of your organization in the signature, you can embed a hyperlink to the website of the organization as part of the email signature. So there's, you select the text, you right click, so there is hyperlink the text, and then you press the hyperlink the text option. Then a box opens in your on your screen. Then it picks out the highlighted text that you have used, or do you want to use for introducing or embedding the hyperlink. It shows it in one of the dialog boxes within the bigger dialog box, and asks you to insert the link at top. Then you go on your search engine, Google, Firefox, whatever it is, Internet Explorer. You pick up the link to your organization, copy it from the browser, and put it at the place in the dialog box that says insert link. And at the bottom, click OK, and the dialog box will close. The moment you've completed this, the black text will become a text in blue underline wherein you have introduced the hyperlink. Now, why am I asking you to do this? It is an internet, the World Wide Web. The more number of connections there are, the better you stand out to be popping up and to be shown up as a profile which is searched. You're searching optimization for your name on the internet, on Google or any other search engine, will get better optimized, will get enhanced when you are using more links in every communication that you are ensuing or creating. So having that in your signature will help you. And your LinkedIn profile will also get optimized because you have used it in all your signatures. Automatically, Google starts picking it up, or any other search engine starts picking it up when someone searches for your name, and your LinkedIn profile also comes at the top. Why should a LinkedIn profile find eminence in a professional's life and career? That's because LinkedIn is a community of professionals wherein networking happens on professional aspects for people who are especially in who are not self-employed or business owners or entrepreneurs, but these are people who are in working at good places, at good posts, and are looking for better opportunities to advance their careers, to learn from their peers from across the globe, and also to leave a stamp of their knowledge, of their experience in the professional community. So they can do that through LinkedIn. So there's a very elaborate separate session on LinkedIn, but I advise you and your students to have their LinkedIn profile ready. Students who are working with us, with whom we are working from as young as class 10th, we advise them to have their LinkedIn profile. Now, COVID has made it mandatory for youngsters to have an email address. So if you have, or anyone has, a valid email address, having a LinkedIn profile becomes very easy for them. In any case, everybody's on social media for for social networking. So many social networking sites we are a part of. Why not be a part of a very thriving, useful, professional networking site as well, which is LinkedIn? Now let's look at what we need to do after we've formulated or written a good, effective email. We've sent it. We should inform the send recipient via a text message or a call that I've sent you an email on such and such aspect. Please do find time to read it. And if possible, in the message, and if it is required, it is a little urgent, I would request you to address it before 2 today, or please within a couple of days by 27th of this month. Please, take some action on it. It's a little important. So that is an informal communication suffusing or supporting the email and its purpose. So the illusion that I have sent an email, the other person has received it, has read it, has acted upon it, that illusion needs to be checked by the sender himself or herself. They need to pay attention to it. The sender should follow up in the email according to the schedule that they mentioned in the third paragraph, that after so many days, passage of so many days, I'll give you a call, or I'll find out what is the status of my email or the action on it, or I'll write you another email. That should be done, because what happens is one turns up to be true on their own words. One comes across as being true to their words, and they come across as being reliable and believable, and others also develop an understanding that he or she is going to follow up. So I better perform because in the past this person has done that. Right? So let's look at the do's and don'ts of email writing. It's very important to dispatch the email at an appropriate time. If it is across time zones, then we can dispatch them the email within our working hours. Otherwise, we should always dispatch emails within our working hours. Suppose you do not have time and you have to travel when the next working hour happens, and but this email is also urgent and important, needs to be sent out. So you can in Google, there is a possibility, and most of the other email platforms or email services attached to our websites, it is possibility to schedule the dispatch time or the send time of an email. So one can schedule it for the following day's working hours. Even if one has drafted the email at a particular time and feels that one may forget or may not have time or may not have access to network when the working hours begin the next day, then one can schedule the sending of the email. So that makes one professional and to be treated with courtesy, professional courtesy, and professional eminence when it comes to communicating and connecting with anybody within the organization or outside. It is important to add appropriate opening and closing sentences. I've asked for a help. I cannot end the email without a thank you. I have supplied some help. I have supplied some information. It will be discourteous and kind of rude on my part not to say with best regards, just to convey that I have not been muffled. I have not been irritated with your request, and I'm open to communication and providing this kind of information in future as well. It is advisable to be careful about the format of date within the email. If one is using the British writing mechanics, so today's date will be 25 September, 2024. If suppose I'm using the American writing mechanics, it will be September 25, 2024. These are small changes, same way the other writing and speaking mechanics of S and Z, putting a dot or not, everything matters and conveys a sense of familiarity and credibility to the recipient. You should use the convention that the recipient uses. Suppose someone is making a cold call and is sending the CV via cover email. They've not had a history of interaction with the organization or that person from the organization. How will they become familiar with the conventions of the recipient? They go to the website of the organization and see what are the writing and speaking mechanics they use. They check the LinkedIn profile of the organization, the LinkedIn profile of the personnel, come to know of their preferred keywords, phrases, and then incorporates those in the written message, whether it's an email or a text message that they are directing or relaying to them. That, like Baltesh Nanda, creates familiarity and makes it easier for the recipient to choose them and to go in the edged out direction. The file attachments, which should come in the third paragraph, which is further information about the email or the action associated with the email, should come in the same sequence that the way they are mentioned in the third paragraph. For your consideration, I have attached my CV, my letter of recommendation, my experience certificate, and my certification in Java, Foxpro, and other languages for your review. Now, these file attachments, these four attachments should come in the same manner: CV, letter of recommendation, experience certificate, and certification of coding languages. And then these file attachments in an email should also be saved with the same name. Document 1, 2, document 3, 4, ABC, ABC's document, doc, degree. These are not the ways to attach, to save, and to attach. If someone doesn't want to go through all the attachments and look up or open only a particular attachment, it should be convenient for them to click on that attachment directly and to open and read who's recommended this person. Later we'll see the CV, who's recommended. Let me click and let me see if the letter of recommendation can help me find out that unnamed, anonymous internal source, because I'm very intrigued. So that itself, that action itself should be very convenient for a recipient to perform when they're receiving an email or any piece of communication from me. So that ensures saving the document, attaching them in the correct format, ensures that one should use the templates for email that are frequently used by the receiver or the organization. That, of course, will become clear to us once we've been interacting with them. For example, sorry, there are organizations with whom we interact, and there they always first prefer a call over the phone and then and email. First, they like to discuss, have a very threadbare, basic discussion about the proposal that we would be sending to them, so that the proposal that is sent in by me to the training and development personnel at the training and development head at that organization, he or she can forward it to the head of the department of that particular department, where for whom we are proposing, the employees or the team members or the department members for whom we're proposing a training. But before they forward it and it comes across as a genuine forward, the training and department head wants to talk to me so that my proposal comes across as very succinct, clear, and answering or addressing the challenge that they are facing as far as the skills, life skills and soft skills of their members, team members, is concerned. So we need to follow that. If I need to initiate some new proposal, then I need to get on a call and then draft an email, discuss that, is it okay if I mention this and this, and can I mention these topics in the proposal, should I mention this in the email, is that all right? That kind of a discussion is helpful, and also conveys a sense that I am giving respect to the person. I am considering their advice, like in the past they have done with giving me their guidance as to how I should post the proposal and the cover email. I am mindful of it and I'm continuing with the tradition. So when I'm continuing with the tradition, that means I am continuing with the organization. One can even send a test email. If it is an important email, one can even send a test email to a different email address, our own or that of a friend or a colleague, to check the formatting, how it reads, how it presents, how the attachments come. And if the attachments are downloaded in the correct manner, the formatting of the attachments is not gone awry. All this can be checked through a test email to a different address, which is not of the actual recipient. Whenever we are sending out official emails, it is always better to put a line of a disclaimer. Just a small sentence of disclaimer is enough to safeguard the confidentiality of the information contained within the emails. It also advice, it is a legal advice, so it is admissible as a legal evidence that this person had been advised in the email as the postscript not to reproduce aspects in or parts or entirety of this email for any other purpose with anyone else outside the organization or except for me, even within the organization. So that can also be added as part of the postscript or as part of the bottom of the email, which is included within the signature section. One can use extensions like Grammarly and other free online applications that help to check the grammar and the spellings, because autocorrect has spoiled it all for us on the mobile phone. And writing important emails should be done on a larger, bigger screen like the desktop or the laptop. Brevity is the essence of an effective email. There shouldn't be too much to read, otherwise, it'll be mind boggling. An email should preempt and answer all the questions. They shouldn't be let her write or let him write and ask me if she wants to know. If a question has come to your mind that this could be a query in the recipient's mind, please answer it in the email itself. Find an appropriate place to mention that bit of information at the relevant juncture, in the correct paragraph, and then go forward with it. One should not use capital letters anywhere in the email except for short forms like NASA or ISRO. That too the second time, because otherwise it will come across as shouting. Of course, slangs and technical words should be avoided, like EOD, end of day, and all in the formal emails. The use of blank carbon copy should be completely avoided, because that is going behind the back of someone and letting known a communication or exchange of information between two people which the other person is totally unaware of, to be shown to another third party. And using courtesy copy should always be done in the right manner, wherein one is keeping the hierarchy in mind. Suppose this boss wants to be in on a communication that a team manager is sending out to the team. So the email is addressed to the team, but the the department head wants to know what is the communication that the team manager is sending out. So instead of carbon copy, they can put the name of the department head as the next recipient or as the first recipient of the email. The second recipient can come as the team member specific to whom that email has been sent out. And the email can be addressed to that specific team member. Dear Prakash, that's not the department head, but that is the name of the team member. And then it can read that this is the email for Prakash, and Prakash should also know that the boss knows about it. And one should not overuse, like I said earlier, high priority urgent kind of epitaphs or epithets or prefixes for emails. Otherwise then people will start regarding every email having a superfluous sense of urgency to it. One should not copy any part or whole of the email without the permission. One should not leave the ongoing thread of communication. One should find in the inbox where is it, the trail email, so that there is a sense of time, there's a sense of how much information has been exchanged, how forthcoming both the parties have been in communicating and keeping the communication alive and sharing information. That is very helpful, especially in professional circumstances. When one is forwarding an email, the forward FWD epithet or prefix automatically appears in the subject line of that email which is being forwarded, and also in the main body, forwarded message from so and so. So the entire email address of the person who had sent out the email to the first recipient, and the first recipient is forwarding it to the second recipient, all this is revealed. So one should be careful. Even if one wants to forward the same email without the information of the initial sender, it should not be done. And if one doesn't want to reveal who sent this, or what is the contact information of this sender from outside the organization, one can press the forward button, remove the FWD epithet from the subject line, then it becomes a normal subject line, and then go into the body of the email, remove the contact information and who sent which message to whom at what time. All that can be removed, and just the body of the email with the initial same information can be passed on to the second recipient. It can be done. It is polite and ethical to reply to the emails immediately, because they are considered to be formal and urgent. If they could wait, they could have been, and if they were not so formal and not binding upon someone's work and daily activity at profession at their workplace, then they would have sent a text message, made a call, or a WhatsApp message. It's a formal communication. It needs to be addressed, and at the earliest possible. Even if you do not have a definite reply, say that I've noted your email, and let me gather some information and get back to you in a couple of days time, get back to you by noon, get back to you before the day ends today. So that is a good response, even when one is not sure or certain of what to write or say. Unnecessary emails should be avoided, and unnecessary files, discriminatory or aggressive language should be avoided. They should not be, sentence construction should be very careful, cohesive, flowing, and one should not convey sensitive and confidential information through emails as much as possible, because then written word is recorded word. It can be used anywhere, and it can be detrimental to someone's reputation, to someone's growth, and it could just be a passing phase, one error in a point in time in someone's career or life, and that should not be blown out of proportion because there's a record maintained of it somewhere. Emails are the norm of contemporary formal communication. The art and skill of writing a crisp email is a mark of a well-developed personality. It is an art and skill both. How to elicit a response? What kind of response will I be eliciting? This is an art form. It requires creativity. So, in addition to the seven C's, another C of context and yet another C of creativity are required to create a very effective and persuasive piece of email, and a giant leap up the ladder of success. New joiners, the freshers who join, they are actually trained. So many MNCs that I go to, they are youngsters who passed out from IIMs and IITs who are trained for communication skills and for writing effective emails, which are not necessarily marketing, unsolicited marketing emails, but replies to clients in an ongoing communication. So that is how important an email is. The second aspect where we will use writing communication in this digital era for enhancement of better managerial skills, and that is drafting the agenda of a meeting. Usually what happens is, when we have a regular recurring meeting, we in the previous meeting we already know what the next meeting is going to be about. So the agenda of the meeting is done, but then there's still line up as to what all items are going to be discussed. Maybe the main topic is this. There were points of action that originated from the previous meeting for various attendees. So are these attendees ready with their points of action, and at what time will they come into the meeting, or are they going to be present throughout the meeting, and what time are they going to talk or bring up this item for discussion? So that is why agenda for meeting is very important. An agenda of a meeting should usually be drafted a few days in advance of the meeting. So even if it is a recurring meeting, one can send out a circular wherein one says that, as you're aware, the annual general body meeting is due, or the quarterly meeting is due in this month on such and such date, which was decided in the previous quarter's meeting. And these were the points of action. If any of you has any items for discussion to be brought up in this quarter's meeting, please email them. Please email the exact title of the item of the point of discussion, when you would want it to be scheduled, and this email should be sent to me by such and such date, by such and such time. What is happening is, when a meeting, which is in any case recurring, is happening, then the person who is picked up by the head of the department to convene, to collect all the people and call them and invite them and to make arrangements for the meeting to happen, is incorporating or inviting different perspectives, different views, and everyone on the team to come and discuss and share what they have to share. Even if there's some new developments that have happened since the last meeting to the present one, they should also be shared and brought to the floor. And of course, the chair of the meeting should be made aware of them. That is the purpose of, before drafting the agenda of the meeting, of inviting suggestions, inputs, and if there are certain important aspects that need to be developed. Of course, the date and time goes. I have followed the British format. I have written the date, the time, then location, conference room B. I have clearly shared the location here. If I'm inviting to the meeting, or if I know that to the meeting there are certain people or there are certain persons who are going to be outside the organization, or people from a different office of the organization visiting this office, I need to pick up a venue, the location, in a manner that it is easily located. Even if I cannot manage a conference room which is easily located but is intricately located in the office building and layout, then I need to ensure, as someone who is convener of the meeting and who's drafting the agenda, to post, signposts, to have signposts located at prominent points in the passage to get the directions right to the conference room. Have someone at the gate, the janitor, the one who opens the gate, someone at the reception desk, or a peon, to be picked up and to be assigned the responsibility that between 10:45 and 11 a.m. you will be stationed here in this part of the building at the reception. and you will escort and direct 2 to 3 people who are going to come from outside the organization, whose name will be this, to attend the meeting, to uh, carry them, to escort them from the main gate to the location or the venue of the meeting. So that all falls within the purview of the convener who drafts the agenda. Not only this, that what are we going to discuss? The person who is the convener or drafting the agenda has to ensure that the meeting is success. Everybody is participating in full throttle. Everybody comes with teaming with ideas, with enthusiasm. So they have to work on eliciting sincerity and attendance and participation. So the template or the agenda of the meeting goes out like this, and they are also, so one when one has invited what are the inputs or items that you'd like to discuss, then they are drafted in a single page document, which all can be covered in an template that I've shared later. But these are different slides that can come. Okay, now if you'll see that since this agenda of a meeting should come as a single page document, so before the meeting, there are two circulars going on. First is there anything that you like to discuss, which is a week or 10 days in advance? Then the final announcement of the meeting with all the aspects of it being fixed and the agenda being fixed and the roles and responsibilities of the meeting being fixed, being conveyed and announced, put up, the agenda being put up on the notice board, being circulated personally by the PN with a signed copy accompanying that, having seen and acknowledged the agenda, and that yes, they commit to it because their signatures will commit to it, in addition to an email invitation that goes out as a CC to the head or the chair of the meeting and everybody else in a CC, that see, all of you have been informed via this email, the chair is going to be here and you better be present, and I've also sent out the physical copy of the attendance or the commitment sheet to attend the meeting. So all this will go out in a single sheet. That is why, after the location, the list of attendees is written as a text rather than a bullet point. Because if it is a bulleted list rather than a running text, it's going to occupy a lot of space. The single page document, a single glance that conveys, oh, okay, so we're going to talk, oh, it's that meeting, which is titled Annual General Body Quarterly Meeting. All right, it's that, and oh, all these people. So, a quick recap or a quick glance at a single page document is going to make it very easy for them to know what is happening. Because who all are attending, that's okay, but what are we going to discuss, the objective, that is more important. The first objective, which comes at a later part in the agenda, after leaving a single line, all these three aspects, what is, when the meeting is happening, where it is happening, who all are attending, I leave a line, and then I come to objectives, a list of items for discussion, which is very important. Then I put a bulleted list. First is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, minutes of the meeting, that is there. Then comes developing ideas by quarter. This is the next item that is going to be discussed. And then if there's certain essential aspect, if there's certain essential requirement for this objective or list of item to be fulfilled and the meeting becoming a successful one, it can be written down as a statement like it is done in this example. Everyone would be prepared to discuss and offer suggestions. So you just cannot come with ideas, without being prepared for a brainstorming session. So you need to come prepared. So perhaps carry some printouts, perhaps carry some PPT, have a video or some kind of an example to share the objectives with us. Then comes the schedule. Which item is going to be discussed when? And 11 to 11:15 there'll be a discussion on approval of the minutes of the last meeting. Usually someone who's written down the minutes circulates these minutes before the next meeting happens. So when the circular is going down the second time, it is a cue to the person who noted on minutes of the previous meeting that, oh, I better be ready and I have all the aspects of the minutes of the meeting noted down and compiled into a document and sent out to everybody, so that if there's someone who's disapproving or something, that discussion time of 11 to 11:15, this is the first item in the schedule that can be covered. And not everybody is looking at me, you did not do a good job, you are given the responsibility of noting down the minutes. So that is why circulating two circulars pertaining to a regular meeting, also recurring meeting, is also a good idea to give time to the others to prepare and be complete with their task and responsibilities. Then comes whatever we're going to discuss. 11:15 to 11:30 we are going to discuss this, and this motion is being moved by Pratik Sharma. Then from 11:30 to this by Deepti Singh, so on and so forth. When we have the schedule, then comes this platform review, overview, and then finally, before we end the meeting, it comes any other item with the permission of the chair. Because sometimes there could be a last minute important thing that the chair feels should be discussed with everybody. Since all of us are together, might as well put this to the table and let's discuss this. Let's thrash out these details. So, this is how the schedule is etched. When you have reached out to Pratik Sharma, when you reached out to Pooja, Kriti, and Rishi, that what is it that you want to discuss, and they've said that we want to discuss this, and what time I prefer. Pooja Rishi says between 12 to 12:15. So this is how you've developed a schedule wherein you've kept everybody's convenience in mind. You have also ensured that their participation is going to be there because they are the ones who have proposed this item for discussion, and also you have informed everybody else who's attending that Kriti is going to be speaking about this and Rishi is going to be talking about this. So if you have something else, if you had a discussion with Kriti or Pooja, you need to bring it to the table. And you also allow good 10-15 minutes in the end to the chair to give them respect, and also to allow them ease and convenience to discuss anything with the team once the team is collected. Then the last part of the agenda of meeting should have roles and responsibilities. These are the usual roles and responsibilities. You can pick out certain other sections which could be a part of the convention of the agenda of the way meetings are carried out in your organization. But these are usually the traditional roles and responsibilities that are assigned to people who are meeting in a professional setup. The first is recording meeting minutes. This is someone who will be noting down who said what said. So, according to the schedule, who said what said, when said. So, that aspect is going to be covered by this person who is Shilpa Kapoor, right? So she would be noting down, note taking. If there's certain important, lengthier discussion that happened on a particular aspect, so extra notes which will not go down in the main document of the minutes, notes taken or elaborate notes available will be written as a small subtext for the minutes of the meeting will be available with Shilpa Kapoor, and she will send it to the chair of the meeting and the department head. And if someone else wants from her those elaborate notes, can reach out to her. Otherwise, for record keeping, they are with the chair of the meeting and the department head whose meeting it was. Suppose there are arguments, there are difference of opinion which get a little heated and which become a little difficult to manage. Who's going to manage that? So that responsibility is also allocated to someone. Someone can also take up timekeeping roles and responsibilities in a meeting. And if it is an important meeting wherein investors and our stakeholders are being invited, then hospitality is also a role and responsibility that can be added to these meeting roles. When I'm circulating the agenda for 3 or 4 days in advance or 5 days in advance of the meeting with the entire objective, the list of items or schedule, and the roles and responsibilities, I am also sending out a message to Shilpa Kapoor, Jay Sharma, otherwise who's the hospitality in charge, who's the timekeeper, that you need to be present on these days. You cannot take a leave. And if certain thing has happened, which is planned, they can inform the convener of the meeting that, sorry, I'll not be able to take the meeting notes as I'm on leave that day. Or something urgent happens, an emergency situation comes, and they had to take a leave at the nth hour. They will be quick and sure to remind or inform the convener that, sorry, I'm not coming in today. I'll not be able to take the meeting notes. Why don't you assign this role to someone else? So that is how the convener is able to arrange and execute a successful meeting that fulfills its purpose. And the chair of the meeting feels that his or her time has not been wasted. Here for you, ladies and gentlemen, I've presented the in 2 parts, the single page document, which can be the agenda of the meeting. So meeting title, why are we meeting? And that can come with the meeting information. Meeting information is, quarterly review of such and such department, of such and such organization. Objective, which I shared with you earlier, within a separate box. Then the date, the time, the location. Then comes the drop down list, which has agenda items and presenters. So I can have one, two, three, four agenda items, and the presenters who are presenting these items or who have proposed these items. Then comes meeting requirements. So there could be certain documents or reports that need to be read through before coming to the meeting. So they can be attached as a soft copy to the email, and also be printed out in hard copies and circulated along with the meeting agenda, which can be handed over by the PN once he or she gets the confirmation of attendance signed in that circular sheet. So please read following documents, and please bring, one can be asked to bring, all of them can be asked to bring their laptops. Some of them can be asked to bring their latest performance reports, any kind of hardware, software, any kind of resource material can be required. And then items required or responsibilities or due date, like you need to inform me if you'll be able to fulfill these responsibilities. So Shilpa Kapoor, Rishi Verma, and other people who've been assigned, their due date to inform is, perhaps a day in advance, and then submitted by such and such person who's the convener, and approved by the chair of the meeting or the head of the department, who is actually going to preside over the meeting. This is how the agenda of the meeting is created. It is, from the first step itself, it is very inclusive in its approach, so that nobody can deny information or come across or pass off or just participate in the meeting without being very vocal, without being very contributory in nature, and one also fulfills the purpose of the agenda or the purpose of meeting that has been etched out by the convener or the chair. To the last aspect that I want to cover today, and that is minutes of the meeting. I'll go through this as well, easily and promptly, because it is not very difficult. It is just technical in nature, and that is recording the minutes of a meeting. The template of a minutes of a meeting is, since it's a running document, it doesn't need to be a single sheet. So it needs to be a little bit in detail, but not supplied with too many details, as in the audio script or the transcript of the entire discussion. That is not required. And since one needs to record all this information and to supply the minutes of the meeting with the essential and the valuable documents, it is advisable to carry a notepad, especially a spiral bound notepad which can turn on both the sides, so that one does not occupy too much of space on the table, on the conference table. A pencil with an eraser attached to it at the back, and 4 or 5 such pencils, because if one has to, strike out something and write, note down something else in its place, it comes across as neat, it's legible for oneself to read at a later time. So much is happening, so much discussion is happening during the meeting, similar kind of information and words are being exchanged, it can become difficult to recall. If your organization permits it, to carry an audio recorder into the conference room and to record, so as to be able to extract the relevant bit to be included in the minutes of the meeting at the right time. Otherwise, you have to rely upon your notes and memory to draft perfect and exact minutes of the meeting that get approved in the next meeting. Also, if there is someone who needs to provide extra information or report, they should be contacted immediately after the meeting gets over, so that you can incorporate that aspect in the minutes of the meeting as well. And it is advisable not to carry your laptop or any other device to the conference room or the meeting room, because then your participation in the meeting is going to be hampered. You can come across as casual and distracted, and that is not the idea. Even though if someone is given a different role or a special role in a meeting, does not mean that they are not a part of the meeting. Even if someone is given the role of hospitality coordinator and has to arrange or instruct the peon and the helper staff, support staff in the office, that every seat at the table should have a bottle of water, and some candies should be placed at relevant pose or relevant locations within the big conference table, one doesn't need to remove oneself from the meeting room. One can be prepared in advance and give instructions in advance and have some symbols and signs designed. So same way, someone who's noting down the minutes of the meeting should not consider that they are not going to be part of the meeting, that they are not going to contribute to the meeting. They have to contribute to the meeting. So the title can be written, the date here has been written in the American format, just to show you the different type of formats. The name and the date of the meeting come at top, no bullet points. Then comes meeting call to order. One can put the name or the title of the minutes or the meeting in bold if required. Otherwise, they can just, minutes of the meeting, annual quarter meeting, whatever, August, whatever. And then we have a vertical list which is numbered, so that when someone looks at it at the minutes, acha, were we 12 present or were we 10 present? I remember 10 of us, because if there's a numbered list given, this kind of approval comparison of actual facts becomes easier. So while in agenda, which needed to be a single page document, the bulleted list of attendees was not required, it was running text. But in the minutes of a meeting, the list of attendees plays a different role. That is why it is numbered list, not even a bulleted list. Members who were not present, they were prearranged, but then there was someone who was not prearranged. So that person's name will come as the third person and who had no information because they met with some kind of an emergency or exigency and could not present themselves. So this is also a behavioral or a performance parameter that is considered by the department head, and that should be noted down in whatever activity that person or the team member is supposed to perform, even if it is attending a meeting of the team. Then comes the reading of the agenda. What were the items, how they were proposed, how they were discussed, what was the decision on them. So the first item was, or the first motion was to approve the agenda for August 8, 2018 meeting. The motion was carried. Yes, we have collected today here together for this purpose, to discuss the ideas as outlined in the agenda. Yes, and resolved, agenda for the meeting was approved without modification. Nobody suggested that we should change the purpose for our present day's meeting. Then we come to approval of minutes of the previous week's meeting, right? Okay, now we are on the same wavelength, that yes, we are meeting for the same correct purpose. Next comes, first item is previous approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion carried and resolved, minutes from the meeting were approved without modification. So resolved, that how was it resolved? What was the end action, or how was it treated? That needs to be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Who said yes, who said no, who was indecisive, everything needs to be recorded. Then comes the business items. Once the purpose of the meeting, approval of minutes is done, then comes the business items. The first business item is motion from such and such person to select such and such person's manuscript. So this was moved by this person. So the marketing team or this person of the sales team was able to get a new manuscript into a publishing company. So this is brownie points for Jyotsna Bhagat. How was the voting pattern on it? 6% were in favor, 2 against, and 1 abstained. It was indecisive. So what was it resolved? Motion was carried because it was in majority, people agreed, and was accepted for critique. All right, let's critique it. Let's review it, proofread it, and see whether it has some quality of getting published or not. Then the second, motion from Priya Patel. What was it? To replace the meeting table using committee funds, because our meeting table is getting very dirty and drab, and it is smaller. So what was the vote? 3 were in favor and 4 were against. So that means it doesn't get passed. So the motion was failed. How was it resolved? But there was an amendment to the whole motion, the proposal and the discussion. Neeraj Gupta, who was part of the attendees, volunteered to repair the table at no cost. He said, in my department, the carpenters are working because we are building up a desk for a new set of team that's going to come up for the latest project. So there's a lot of raw material like wood and other paraphernalia for making up a table that is going to be left unused from our project. And the carpenters are in the house. Let me, as part of that approved budget, ask them to make a bigger conference table or repair this instead of building. Let's repair this conference table at no cost itself. So that was how this motion was resolved, and this is the action taken. So when the minutes of the meeting are approved and the next meeting happens, people are going to ask Neeraj Gupta on the status report of the conference table. Has it been repaired or not? And then if it has, good. What was the cause? Was it done in the same manner as decided by the team or not? And if not, then what were the reasons? So that is how minutes of the meeting convey a lot of sense about task accomplished and task still remaining unaccomplished. There's another example of third item. There was motion from someone to subscribe to Writer's Digest using committee funds. Now, this is a publishing company, right? So the motion was carried, but it was resolved. Everybody agreed that the subscription to Writer's Digest should be purchased using committee funds. That is fine. But there was an amendment. It should be in the name of the chair, which is Jyotsna Bhagat, at a special 2-year rate. We should subscribe for it, not only for annual subscription, not for 5-year longer subscription, but just 2 years. And it should be in the name of Jyotsna Bhagat, who's the chair, because they will not take a subscription and they will not give us a discount if we come across a subscription from a corporate entity or a private firm. So let's have it as a subscription from a person. Let it be in the name of Jyotsna Bhagat. And she understands that although it's in her name, because it's written part of the minutes of the meeting, so it's not her personal property, that she cannot take that digest home. Okay. And then what happened? The last thing was meeting ended with thanks to the chair. And what time was the meeting adjourned? This was the time when the meeting was adjourned. So this is how the minutes of the meeting are recorded. When one is assigned with the responsibility of noting down the minutes of the meeting, one should be prepared with reading out the agenda of the meeting, who all are going to be presenting. Do I understand the person? Is their language and their oratory skills, their communication skills easier for me to understand? And or would I face a challenge with them? So if that is the case, then I can perhaps request that you speak very softly. Why don't you come and sit next to me in the meeting, so that it's easier for me to record the minutes of the meeting without interrupting everybody's, excuse me, I could not hear you, can you please repeat that? That's going to be quite a disruption. So that is why someone who's entrusted with the responsibility of recording the minutes of the meeting should be thorough with the list of items to be discussed and who are going to be presenting it. Find out about the expectations from you, from the convener. Is it okay if I come with this? Sometimes the convener said, I'll not allow you to carry a laptop because nobody else will be carrying a laptop, and you carrying, only one carrying the laptop is going to be such an eyesore, and you're going to stand out, and people are not going to be comfortable in communicating, and we have investors and stakeholders also coming to the meeting, so I cannot allow you. So that kind of a discussion should happen. How much of detail is required, you need to know from the convener. The convener can then get in touch with the chair of the meeting and ask, what all would you like? Who said, why did they abstain from voting? Here in the minutes of the meeting, the name of the person who abstained from voting is not mentioned. Do you want them to make a note of it and record it in the minutes, or make a note of it and keep it separately? Those are the things that you should be aware of before you get into recording the minutes of a meeting. The spiral notepad with pencil and eraser attached, these are things that will be helpful more than a pen, because a pen can sometimes leak, the ink can be in your hand, striking out too many crossing outs can make the sheet of paper or your notepad look very dirty, untidy, and it can also confound you and confuse you when you're trying to recall information. Voice record, as I said, if permitted, it should be there. Minute by minute record should be there. There shouldn't be a gap. 11 to 11:15 this happened, 11:15 to 11:30 this happened. It should be there. So there was continued discussion, even if there erupts an argument for good 20 minutes. So 11:15 to 11:45 discussion, this item. So one will not say that they, in an argument, they went off the track, but when this item was brought, so there were certain people who were triggered, there was certain kind of a response, but it was that discussion or that heated argument which will not be noted down as heated argument, which can perhaps be taken note of as a separate note if asked by the chair or the convener immediately after the meeting. Then one can make note of it separately, but it will be part of the item, agenda item in the minutes of the meeting. You should check off the attendees as and when they enter, so that you know that your list is there. You should remember to participate in the meeting, even if you are interested in responsibility of noting the minutes of the meeting, because otherwise, if you do not communicate, others become more aware of you, and they start thinking, oh, noting down the minutes, so does not have to participate. Then sometimes they even might want to volunteer to be noting down the minutes of the meeting, just to escape participating in a sensitive meeting, or a meeting where sensitive items are being brought up for discussion. once the meeting is over and there are certain aspects of the meeting or discussion points you're not clear about, not sure about, immediately after the meeting, catch that person. What did you mean? Because even if they're outside, the venue, the ethos of the meeting, they will become a different person. They will attend to the task at hand, and that whole meaning, emotion, or what is it that they actually want could be lost. They might not want to connect, because as it is, they've been in a long meeting which has lasted for half an hour, 30 minutes, 35, 40 minutes, or 1 hour. They will not want to sanction off more time to this meeting. Then they will be totally unavailable, and then the things can get stale and everything can be lost. A lot of meaning and essence can change because of passage of time. So immediately catch them. Arrange for the receipt of documents from the concerned members immediately after the meeting. If someone has to supply you a report or something, and that report should go as part of the extra note or something, that you should arrange for and keep following up with them. Also, before you get into the meeting, of course, you need to have a list of attendees with contact information. Why? Because if there's something that you need to get in touch with them about after the meeting is over and they are all have left, and while drafting the minutes of the meeting, something strikes you. Oh, I noted it down, or in the voice recorder, this word is not very clear. What is it? What audio is not very clear? You need to connect with them. Then you need to have their contact information like email and phone number if you do not already have it. Write the minutes immediately after the meeting so that you do not forget, and do not place too much trust on your memory, because it is the same kind of information, same kind of environment that we are working and operating in. And so we can tend to get confused, lose out, forget many things. It is supposed to be brief minutes of a meeting, but it should not do away with or miss out important details. They are required. If someone abstained, how many were in favor, how many did not vote, who were attending, who were not absent but were prearranged, who were absent without being prearranged, that needs to be mentioned. Those names of those who uh, moved a motion should be there, but not how, who voted how, until unless asked for. He, she, Pooja, Rishi, and Jyotsna voted in favor. These two people were against. Those kind of details are not required until unless they are asked for. And mention of follow-up actions which emerged as because of the meeting. For example, Neeraj Gupta suggested, a volunteer, that I'll get the conference table repaired in the present example that we took. So that also needs to be mentioned, the amendment, everything, the new roles, the new responsibilities that emerged because of the discussions that happened in the meeting need to be part of the main document of the minutes of the meeting. You should attach as appendix further documents, reports that were called upon during the meeting or after the meeting to be referred to for discussion. You should be objective and not opinionated, and not have any personal bias include. One should maintain the same tense, preferably past tense or present perfect tense, in writing about the uh, minutes of the meeting. You should review and edit it before submitting it for approval, or even submitting it as the final copy. The minutes of the meeting should be given to all the attendees of the previous meeting. So the new meeting might have attendees who are not part of the previous meeting. So they will abstain from participating in this agenda item, but to all the attendees. And if someone who was not a part, or who's not a part of the present meeting but was a part of the previous meeting, needs to approve the minutes of the meeting, will come and participate in the meeting only in that, during that time period. It is for this reason that approvals of the previous minutes, previous meetings minutes, are kept in the beginning, so that someone who's not a part of the meeting can come very quickly, come without much discussion or emotional charge, or discussion happening or exchange of information happening, without them coming to know of anything that they shouldn't come to know of. They come fresh as a pie into that discussion, where everyone else is also there with a very pleasant and a fresh perspective, quickly come, approve, do their work, and leave. And so that the rest of the meeting with the rest of the attendees, scheduled and picked out attendees, can go on. Email the draft minutes well before the time for the next meeting, so that they have the time to read through it and approve. You should carry sufficient copies of the draft minutes of reference. and for use. So some people are like, oh, you'd send me an email, oh, I forgot MOMC, oh, it was a little long, so I forgot. So those kind of people who would want to sabotage, or who would be tardy, or who would be casual in their approach of not approving the minutes of the previous meeting, those kind of casualties can be managed if you carry sufficient 4 or 5 extra printed copies of the minutes of the meeting and hand it out to them, that here you could not please, if there are more people who've not read out the minutes of the meeting, make them sit together, then so, and share a printed copy, that why don't both of you read from this one copy, I'm carrying just 4 and there are 5 of you who haven't read, why don't both of you share and read, and so that we can get on with the agenda item. The same thing should also be done for someone who has printed out the agenda of the meeting and has been a convener of the meeting. He or she should also carry sufficient print copies of the agenda. In fact, they are provided in the folder or the meeting kit. So if there's no folder or the meeting kit of the meeting, then it is the duty of the convener of the meeting who's drafting the agenda to have as many as the number of attendees of the meeting, the agenda of the meeting copies, plus a couple more for someone who walks in or someone who's invited by the chair of the meeting to also know and to refer to the agenda of the meeting. And this is an example wherein minutes of the meeting can be noted down and they can continue into number of pages. This would also be shared with you later on. This is a filled up one as to how you can note down what happened, when happened, what is the list of items, how it can be drafted and shared. Thank you so much.